Okay, so it is August 26th, and I'm Josie, and this is Pages in Floss, and I'm going to wrap up Retoldathon. So, Retoldathon started the 12th of August and ended yesterday, the 25th. So, I have a bingo board here, and we also had prompts. So later I will put the prompts in, and I will kind of go through them as I go through the books. Let's see if this will stay. I don't know if it will stay. It's on a on a box, and it's kind of like falling apart. Okay. So on the bingo board, I got Snow White, Alice in Wonderland, and Brothers Grimm. And I did okay for the 3. So, Catch-Up-A-Thon was going on from the 1st to the 14th. And this started the 12th. And I read who were the Brothers Grimm by Avery Reed. And it was illustrated by John O'Brien. And I just love these little ones, and they're quick read, and I'm like, okay, it is Catch-Up-A-Thon, but it's also Retoldathon, and I'm just adding it. And so it says on the back, who were the Brothers Grimm? 2 brothers who were best friends their whole lives, law school students who loved folk tales, the most famous collectors of fairy tales of all times, all the above. And so it tells their story, and they were born in Germany, and they would, like I said in my last video, they would go around and get stories orally and write them down, and then they would, it was just such a German tradition of telling stories, loving stories, and some people thought these stories were too scary and wouldn't want to tell them to their kids. And listening to a few, I found an ambiance that did tell these stories. And some of them, I couldn't listen to. It was night, and I'm like, no. But some of these I just really love. And, like, all these years later, you get Merida, you get Snow White, you get Beauty and the Beast, Red Riding Hood, and it's still stories that people love and care about, and people will probably fight you on which one's the best, and that's what makes these stories so special, is telling them and keeping them and caring enough to write them down, and then we care enough to have other stories about them and have it be some other series. So that's always just really awesome to me, that these are so old and people just care so much about them. So I read, and I've been keeping track of when the book was written and how many pages there were. So, in this one, it was published in 2015, and there is technically 104 pages in this. There's a timeline and of the Grimm's lives, and then timeline of the world of what was going on. And then they have illustrations in here as well. So it's always I just love these books. Okay, so that was my chips in Catch-Up-A-Thon, and I got a bingo for it in Retoldathon. And then I actually purchased this and wanted to read Alice in Wonderland. I put on my reel on Instagram that I've only watched the movies, and that's true. I've watched the where Johnny Depp is the Mad Hatter, and I just love those movies. So I really wanted to read the original story, and this was just such a joy to read, and I just love it. And this is the original 1865 edition with complete illustrations, and they are just, I love them. And so I will show you. And they're just great. I just love, I have so many, I don't know, like, it's chaotic in the best way. There's a lot going on. She's talking to animals. She falls asleep. She goes through this hole. She talks to all these animals. She shrink sizes. She drinks poison. It's just wild. And I loved every minute. And, yeah, it's just, I want to read the Looking Glass as well. But, yeah, and here's the cat, and I just loved it. I just couldn't believe how old this book was, and that I was getting kind of the updated modern version of that copy. But, and this was printed by Amazon in 2021, and this has 101 pages, but it's just great. So then, I had trouble with some of the prompts. I didn't know what books I was going to use for sure until that day. And even though I went to the library, I'm like, I don't know if that works for that. Am I going to get to that? And I read Snow White by Ruth Ainsworth. And I said on Instagram that my grandma had loved Snow White, and she would play it for us, and I never liked the witch in the movie, but there's so many different Snow White, and everybody kind of knows the story of Snow White in some way or the other, and I just have really loved, my grandma always had Ruth Ainsworth books from 1979, I think it is. I think, yeah. Yep, 1979. And it's just, the illustrations are really unique. So, like, you know, just... when I was younger, it was a little cheesy. And, like, oh my gosh, it's so outdated. But I love it. And I was actually going to put it in my book donation pile, and I'm like, I just can't do it. So, there's just too many memories with this book, and with Snow White in general, and I just can't give it away. Okay, and this has no pages, so this is obviously very short, so I don't know, probably like 20, 30 pages. And then I did Fate Be Changed by Farah Roshan, and this is about Merida. And so the reading prompts were a crown on the cover, a princess, and there was a few others that are not coming to my mind right now. And I will put that at some point. And so I didn't realize, but it does have a crown. And obviously, this is in the woods. And so, what if the witch gave Merida a different spell? And I just always have loved the story. It's about Eleanor, Merida's mother, and Merida, and that Eleanor had to grow up very proper and queen and princess, and, you know, she disapproves of some of the things Merida does, but Merida also doesn't want to be a princess. She wants to be, she obviously grew up as a princess, but she doesn't want to be, proper and have rules and get married. She wants to just live her life and be brave, and be her own person. And so Eleanor and Merida really get to find who they are as mother and daughter, and who they are and the respect they have for each other after, like in the movie that happens. And with this, she gets to see her mother in a different way. And they have this, Eleanor does tapestry, and so Merida breaks the tapestry, and Eleanor throws something of Merida's in the fire, and so they have a big falling out, and Merida finds this witch and has some kind of curse. And so that's all I wanted to say about it. But they end up coming together and caring and loving each other, not as mother and daughter, but as just people that have to be in this castle and being princesses and queens and royals, and what it means to have like common grounds with all that. So that was that. And I didn't say how much this was. This is 454 pages, and this took me a while to get through, so I mainly wanted to read this one. And this was her new release. I think it was July. And I also read another book by her, which was Tiana's Story, and I absolutely loved it. So this was my favorite read all of them were so good. I didn't have a problem with any of them. But this was just great, and I just love it. And I want to keep this book for my niece to read when she's a little bit older. But I also ended up watching Brothers Grimm with Heath Ledger and Matt Damon. And that was an interesting take as well. It wasn't for me, but it was such an interesting take. And there's one particular scene. So the movie is kind of like, it's about the brothers, but it's like they're helping characters in the folktale stories and helping them do things, helping them through their own stories. It's kind of a weird concept, but a cool concept at the same time. I really liked it in that way, but I watched about an hour of it, and I was like, no, I just can't get into this. And there's one scene, I don't know what story it was, but the horse had like spider webs coming out of its mouth, and it ate one of the kids. And then it shows in the movie like the kid and the horse, and I'm just so disturbed by that. I can't come back from that. So yeah, that was a little much. And I just had to stop watching at that point. But I was also reading, Mistress of Evil, of All Evil. There's the title. It's very hard to read. But I have liked this as well. I liked this series by Serena Valentino. Tino. She is not even on here. Okay. Yeah, but it is by her. And she has quite a bit in the villain stories. And this is just so cool. Because she also like kind of mashes up all these characters and all these fairy tales, and has like Cersei in it, and has she has all sorts of characters from all sorts of stories in with Maleficent, and she had it with Captain Hook too. So you're kind of getting all these stories at once, and it's just so fun. And so basically you're learning about Maleficent when she is younger, and then like it goes through her life a little bit and what she had to do, and that she really wasn't someone that wanted to be dark and bad, and she just had all these experiences in life that made her that way. And one thing after the other, and she didn't have a great childhood, and that's kind of where I'm at it. I really wanted to finish it, but I didn't get to it. But Maleficent is up there, and also with my favorite villain, one of them, Cruella de Vil's my favorite villain, but she is up there on that list of favorites, and I just had a great time reading this, so I will probably finish that sometime this week. And I don't know what else I was going to say, but I read quite a bit this month, so I will definitely get out my wrap up. I might do a yes, no, or maybe. I don't know, because there's a lot of books, and there's still a week left of August, and that is bananas. But yeah, I had such a great time with the Retoldathon, and I read quite a few books, and I just loved all the books that I read. I had a great time, and I am so excited for it for next year. But I think that's it. So